There are moments, aren't there, when the loudest noise is your own internal chatter. When all that chasing, all that wanting just stops. And in that quiet you feel something else. Not emptiness, but a kind of deep, steady hum. That's not a craving, that's your spirit remembering its own power. We're conditioned almost from birth to go after things, to grab, to fill ourselves up. But how often are we really taught to just be? In that being, an ancient strength stirs. Not the panic of missing something, but the sheer relief of connecting with yourself. This idea of holding back, of abstinence, it's not about starving yourself. It's about finding yourself again. It's the skill of quieting the static so your soul's broadcast can finally come through, loud and clear. When abstinence comes up, most people think restriction. What am I giving up? What's forbidden? What's the sacrifice? But for anyone serious about mastering their inner world, abstinence isn't a barren wasteland. It's a well-tended inner garden. It's not about less of something, it's about redirecting everything. Every bit of your focus, every breath of your awareness, every flicker of desire, instead of leaking outwards, gets poured back inwards. And when that happens, something profound shifts. The mental clutter clears, the emotional storms die down, and that quiet, true voice inside gets a chance to speak. In many wisdom traditions, energy isn't meant to be frittered away, it's meant to be cultivated. Your body, your mind, your spirit, they're all part of one interconnected system. What you consciously conserve in one area can nourish another. When we choose to step back, not from fear or guilt, but from a place of true understanding, we start to build up this inner vitality. Some call it life force. This energy, when it's not constantly scattered by impulse or emotional drama, it builds up inside. And where does it flow? It starts to fortify your awareness, your clarity, your very presence. Abstinence becomes the very forge where your unwavering focus is shaped. Think of a wildfire, raging uncontrolled, consuming everything in its path. That's how a lot of us live: constant input, relentless seeking, diving into things without a moment's thought. But what if you could gather that fire, tend it carefully in a hearth? Suddenly, it provides warmth, light, focused power. It's the same with our desires. Channel them with wisdom, and they transform into willpower. Restrain them thoughtfully, and they become a deep, unwavering presence. I knew a fellow, let's call him David, around his late 50s. He'd spent decades jumping from one romantic entanglement to another. He told me he'd been through multiple marriages, and in between, he'd barely ever let himself just be alone. Always needing that next fix of companionship, of feeling wanted, of connection. But he hit a wall, it all felt hollow. One day, utterly worn out, he confessed, "I don't even know what I truly desire anymore. I just know how to chase. I've never learned to just be still." So, he did something drastic. He committed to a full year of intentional aloneness. No dating, no flings, no emotional roller coasters, and critically, no seeking. He said the initial quiet was deafening, like the world's loudest party had suddenly gone silent, and he was left alone on the dance floor. But in that silence, things started to change. He began to notice his own breath, really feel the earth under his feet. And for the very first time, he started to hear his own unadulterated thoughts, not the ones driven by frantic need, but the ones whispering his truth. That year turned his life around. Not because he got something new, but because he found what was buried inside him all along: his strength, his ability to discern, his personal boundaries. He told me later, "Now any connection I make comes from a place of fullness, not a gaping void." That's changed everything. This is the core of abstinence as an energy strategy. You're not depriving your life, you're fortifying your soul. Modern brain science is showing us how habits, especially those tied to pleasure or strong emotions, carve deep pathways in our brain's reward circuits. When we repeatedly chase a desire, our brain wires itself to expect pleasure from that outside thing. But when you intentionally step back, especially from things that feel compulsive or excessive, something incredible happens. Your brain starts to adapt. It's called neuroplasticity, the brain's amazing capacity to change and reorganize. Abstinence creates the space for these reward pathways to hit the reset button. The dopamine system, which fuels our impulses and cravings, begins to settle down. The outcome: better impulse control, sharper mental focus, and greater emotional steadiness. What ancient practitioners knew from deep inner work, science is now confirming. And why is this so crucial for relationships? Because when your own internal system is calm, your presence becomes incredibly powerful. And presence, my friends, is the bedrock of real intimacy. Not just physical touch, not just words, not even that initial spark, but true, settled presence. When you are calm inside, your partner feels a sense of safety with you. When you're not looking for them to fill your gaps, they can meet you as an equal, without the drama of codependency. Seen this way, abstinence isn't about rejecting others, it's about refining yourself. it's choosing to cultivate a rich inner landscape before you invite someone else in. And when you do that, you become compelling, not in a flashy, superficial way, but like a steady mountain that naturally draws the eye, strong, still and centered. There's an old Taoist teaching about a young student completely fixated on a village girl. His longing was all-consuming. His master, noticing his distraction, took him to a quiet well. "Look into the water," the master said. "What do you see?" "Myself," replied the student. The master then tossed a pebble into the well. The water broke into ripples. "Now what?" "Just waves, master. I can't see anything clearly." "That is your mind, clouded by restless desire, unclear, distorted. Be still." They waited. Slowly, the water calmed. "My reflection returns." The master put a hand on his shoulder. Abstinence isn't about killing desire, it's about calming the mind enough to see yourself true. Only then can you know if what you're chasing is real love or just a reflection of your own turbulence. The wisdom here is timeless. Without inner calm, we're blind to our true needs, and without clarity, our relationships just become tangled reflections of our own inner chaos. When the body is always on the go, chasing, touching, reacting, there's no room for the soul to get a word in. But when we consciously bring stillness to the body, when we guide our desires with wisdom instead of brute force, something amazing occurs. The soul starts to communicate through gut feelings, through your breath, through sudden insights. You start to sense when someone's words don't match their energy. You pick up on emotional currents you were blind to before. This isn't psychic power, it's heightened sensitivity. And sensitivity isn't weakness, it's a profound intelligence. It lets you navigate relationships with skill, to feel when someone is hurting even if they don't say it, to know when to speak up and when to simply hold space. This kind of deep connection is only possible when your own inner world isn't a constant barrage of noise. Consider a woman in her early 40s, reeling from the end of a significant relationship. She felt lost, unsure of who she was anymore. She decided on 6 months of what she called emotional fasting, not just no physical intimacy, but a total break from romantic pursuits or emotionally charged interactions. No dating apps, no late night texts analyzing the past, no replaying what ifs. Instead, she focused inward. She journaled, practiced mindful breathing, took long walks without music, just learning to be with herself. She admitted the first phase felt like withdrawal, like a part of her was missing. But gradually, she realized what she'd truly been hooked on wasn't love itself, but the distraction, the distraction of someone else's approval, the comfort of not facing her own inner landscape. In the quiet, her own creative spark returned, her genuine laughter came back. She wrote, "I thought I'd lost myself in him, but the truth is, I'd never really found myself until I dared to be alone." This is the kind of powerful shift abstinence can spark. When the external noise dies down, what you find isn't emptiness, it's your self. In psychology, there's this idea of interoception, our ability to tune into our body's internal signals. People who mindfully practice periods of abstinence often report a sharper interoceptive sense. They become more aware of their breath, their heartbeat shifts in their energy. And with this awareness comes better emotional control. You start to notice anxiety bubbling up before it becomes a tidal wave. You feel that tightness in your chest before an argument explodes. You learn to respond thoughtfully rather than react blindly. And in relationships, this creates a foundation of safety and mutual respect. Abstinence then acts like emotional decluttering. Just as we might fast to give our digestive system a rest, we abstain to give our hearts the space to clear out the subtle residues of old hurts, lingering attachments, and unconscious habits. And this space isn't a void, it's sacred. It's where your inner compass gets reset. In traditions like Chinese medicine, the kidneys are considered the storehouse of our core life energy. They govern our willpower, our resilience. Constant overindulgence, especially in ways that scatter our energy without grounding, is thought to drain this vital reserve. But through conscious periods of holding back, the kidneys can recharge, our will strengthens. And from this strength, clarity emerges not just about others, but about our own path and purpose. So, what does this look like day to day? It means when you catch yourself desperately needing someone else's approval to feel okay, hit the pause button. When you realize you're always seeking a touch, a conversation, any connection just to dodge loneliness, pause. When your desires feel frantic, when your mind spirals into, what if they don't like me? Or, am I good enough? Just pause. Not to beat yourself up, but to listen deeply. Because beneath that frantic urge is often a quieter, truer need that no one outside of you can ever fill. When the body is quiet, the soul often whispers, you are already complete. Your value doesn't depend on being needed. You have the power to choose where and how you direct your energy. You can love deeply without losing your core. This is where abstinence becomes true freedom, not freedom from others, but freedom from relying on them for your sense of self. It creates a space where love can flourish, not as a desperate grab, but as a generous offering. As we move from this idea of redirecting energy, another vital truth comes into focus. The stillness of your body allows the language of your soul to be heard. You begin to realize that silence isn't empty, it's presence turned up to full volume. To live with presence isn't to hide from life, but to engage with it fully, without fighting it, without distorting it, and without the chaos of being tossed around by your own unchecked emotions. Presence is the dedicated practice of being fully where you are. It's the quiet skill of anchoring your mind, not letting it be yanked around by past regrets, future worries, or every shiny object the world dangles in front of you. And yet, presence isn't just for enlightened masters. It's a critical skill in every relationship, every conversation, every moment one human heart tries to truly connect with another. Presence isn't something you put on, it's a state you radiate. When someone is genuinely present with you, you feel it. Their gaze isn't flitting around, their breath is calm. Their whole being isn't agitated or needy, but open and still. In their presence, you don't feel assessed or ignored, you feel truly seen. This isn't mystical, it's biological. Your nervous system, that incredible network connecting your brain, body, and surroundings, is constantly scanning for cues of safety. This process, sometimes called neuroception, happens beneath conscious thought. The instant you walk into a room, meet someone, or hear a certain tone, your body is already deciding whether to relax or tense up, open or guard itself. When you are present, your breath naturally deepens, your shoulders relax, your voice finds its steady rhythm. You're not lost in future fears or past pains. In this state, your parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest system, kicks in. This system signals to your own body and to others around you, it's safe here. In the dance of relationships, presence is the invisible glue that holds trust together. It's not how witty your words are or how intense your feelings are that makes someone feel secure. It's the stability of your own inner state. When your nervous system is regulated, others around you feel that regulation. And this feeling, this embodied sense of safety, is what allows people to truly open up, to share their vulnerabilities, and to connect from the heart. I recall a therapist sharing a story about a couple teetering on the brink of divorce after 20 years. The wife lamented, "He's never really here with me, even when we're talking." The husband, frustrated, retorted, "But I am here!" "I come home, I ask about your day. What more do you expect?" Instead of advice, the therapist proposed an experiment. For the next 5 minutes, she instructed, no words, just sit facing each other, be truly present, no trying to fix, no proving a point, no performing. They reluctantly agreed. Initially, they were stiff. But as the silence settled, a change occurred. The husband's posture softened, the wife's breathing evened out, tears began to stream down her face. When the 5 minutes were up, she whispered, This is what I've been missing. Not your words, just you." That's the profound difference between just being physically near someone and being emotionally present. One touches the surface, the other touches the soul. And yet, presence doesn't just happen, it's cultivated, it's guarded. And often, it's born from abstinence, not necessarily from people, but from the relentless distractions, the compulsive phone checking, the constant urge to voice opinions, the craving for perpetual stimulation. True presence emerges when we create that inner space, when we abstain from the mental static long enough for stillness to feel natural. In traditional martial arts, students are taught to master their breath before they even learn a strike. Why? Because breath is life. It's the conduit between your conscious mind and your deeper self. When your breath is erratic and shallow, your mind follows suit, becoming anxious. When your breath is deep and steady, your mind becomes anchored. This isn't just for combat, it's for conflict resolution too. In relationships, every disagreement is a breath test. Every moment of tension is a chance to stay centered or get swept away. Try this next time you're in a heated moment, about to lash out. Just pause. Take one deliberate, full breath in through your nose. Feel it expand your belly, not just your chest. Hold for a moment, then release it slowly. Ask yourself, am I about to speak to connect or to control? Often, that single breath is the bridge between a knee-jerk reaction and a thoughtful response, between causing pain and fostering understanding. Modern science backs up what ancient wisdom knew. Conscious breathing activates the vagus nerve, a major player in your parasympathetic system. This doesn't just slow your heart rate and lower stress hormones, it actually boosts your capacity for empathy. When you're calm, you can perceive subtleties. You can sense the emotional truth beneath someone's defensive words. You can respond from a place of wisdom, not from your own unhealed wounds. Presence also has a physical signature. Your body communicates in ways your mind can't fake. When your spine is aligned, your chest open, your shoulders relaxed, you radiate a quiet confidence and receptivity, not arrogance, not timidity, but a natural sense of dignity. This posture isn't for show, it's a direct message to your own nervous system. I am grounded. I am safe. Others pick up on this, especially children, and especially partners who've been hurt. They sense, often without knowing how, whether you're truly with them, and they react accordingly. A teacher of mine often said, "The way you sit at the table is the way you sit in life." He meant your body is a billboard for your mind. If you're hunched, restless, constantly scrolling, or tense, your mind isn't calm. If your body is grounded, alert yet relaxed, your mind is likely clear. That's why breath and posture aren't minor details. They are gateways to deeper presence. And presence is the gateway to genuine connection. Let's now explore another crucial aspect of this journey: building your emotional muscle through deliberate restraint. Just as physical muscles grow stronger against resistance, your emotional core strengthens when you intentionally choose not to act on every impulse. Every time you choose not to snap, not to mindlessly indulge, not to chase a quick fix for discomfort, you're doing an emotional sit-up. And like physical strength, emotional strength isn't always flashy, but it's deeply felt by you and those around you. There's a common misunderstanding that emotional freedom means just letting it all hang out, doing whatever you feel. But true emotional freedom is the opposite. It's not about being a slave to every passing feeling, but about being aware of your feelings, being able to sit with them, and then choosing a wise, constructive response. This is where abstinence becomes a powerful discipline, not just for the body but for the heart. A young woman shared her story of intense heartbreak. After being abruptly cut off by someone she was serious about, she was overwhelmed by a tidal wave of emotions: rage, deep sadness, confusion, a desperate longing. Her first instinct was to bombard him with texts, calls, to demand answers, maybe even post vague, angry things online. But something made her pause. She recalled a teaching: don't make a move while the water is murky. So she didn't. She didn't react. Instead, she sat with it. She wrote in her journal. She allowed herself to cry. She focused on her breath. She simply watched the emotional storm rage within her. After a few days, the urgent need to reach out began to subside. What emerged was something stronger: self-respect, clarity. She recognized her pain was valid, but it didn't have to dictate her actions. That conscious choice not to act on raw impulse, that's emotional muscle, that's strength. In relationships, this strength is non-negotiable, because love without discipline easily devolves into clinging attachment. And unchecked attachment becomes suffocating dependence. But when you've trained your emotional muscles through these acts of pausing, of choosing, you bring to your relationships not a desperate need, but a genuine offering, not an empty hunger, but a full presence. And this kind of offering is magnetic. It communicates: I desire you, but I don't need you to complete me. I choose you not because I'm a half looking for my other, but because I am whole and wish to share my wholeness with you. This is the heart of a truly sacred partnership. But let's be real, emotional abstinence, like hitting the gym after a long break, is uncomfortable. It's the deliberate choice to sit with discomfort instead of immediately trying to numb it or distract yourself from it. It's the discipline of not firing off that angry email, not wallowing in revenge fantasies, not getting sucked into old narratives about being unwanted. In these challenging moments, the path isn't always obvious, but the practice is constant: pause, breathe, observe. Just as a martial artist trains in quiet focus before a match, we too must train in stillness before engaging in emotionally charged situations. This kind of inner training literally rewires your brain. Psychologically speaking, when we resist the pull of impulsive emotional reactions, we strengthen our prefrontal cortex, the brain's CEO, responsible for decision-making, emotional regulation, and looking ahead. Over time, this gives us more command over our emotional surges. It becomes easier to respond with wisdom, even when we're stressed. Abstinence builds this very capacity. Every time you consciously choose not to feed a destructive emotion, you are reprogramming your internal software. You are teaching your mind that discomfort isn't fatal, that feeling something intensely doesn't mean you must act on it right now. This delay, this sacred pause, is where real growth happens. A wise monk once said, "When you feel that fire of anger or hurt flare up inside you, don't rush to douse it or hurl it at someone. Let it burn inward. Let it fuel your clarity. Then speak from the warm embers, not the raging flames." This kind of emotional transformation isn't about suppression, it's alchemy. You don't ignore the emotion, you harness it. You channel it. You let it refine you. Abstinence in this sense isn't about being cold, it's about containment. It's the choice to become a strong enough vessel to hold intense feelings without carelessly spilling them onto others. This ability is rare, but it's what makes someone truly reliable in love. Not just exciting, but trustworthy. Not just expressive, but emotionally intelligent. To reach this level of inner discipline isn't to reject joy or love or connection. It is to truly honor them, to bring to them the full force of your inner mastery. It's to say, I don't need to own you. I choose to relate to you as an equal, with presence, patience, and profound respect. It is in this fertile ground that true intimacy blossoms, where hearts connect not out of desperation, but devotion, where love isn't a hurricane that sweeps you off your feet, but a steady flame that warms and lasts. And so, we learn to walk forward, breathing more deeply, standing a little taller, pausing a bit longer, not out of fear, but out of a deep reverence. Because the quality of the relationship we cultivate with ourselves directly determines the quality of relationships we can build with others. When we talk about abstinence, so many still picture denial, what's being kept away, what's off limits. But for the person truly on an inner journey, abstinence isn't about emptiness. It's about a space, and space isn't lack, it's pure potential. It's that sacred interval between a trigger and your response, between a craving and your action, between an expectation and your actual lived experience. When we speak of fostering relational clarity through abstinence, we're not advocating for avoiding relationships. We're talking about seeing them and the people in them with clear eyes, without the fog of projection, without the distortion of our own unaddressed inner needs. In a world hooked on quick validation, constant distraction, and rushed intimacy, abstinence becomes a powerful act of self-purification. It cleans the lens through which we see others, and even more critically, it polishes the mirror in which we see ourselves. What are you truly looking for in another person? Are you seeking a genuine partner or a temporary fix for your own pain, a witness to your life, or a rescuer? Without the quiet, how can you ever discern the difference? There's a profound wisdom found in solitude. But just being alone isn't the magic bullet. You must bring conscious awareness into that solitude. That's where the real change happens. When the body quiets down and steps away from its usual routines, the constant touching, seeking stimulation, flattering, performing, the soul finally gets a chance to speak. And what it says isn't always easy to hear. Sometimes it reveals just how much of our desire for connection is actually a flight from ourselves. A woman once shared that after a string of unhealthy relationships, she took a firm pledge: no dating for an entire year. Not because she was bitter or had given up on love, but because she desperately wanted to finally meet herself. I needed, she explained, to hear the sound of my own thoughts without someone else's voice drowning them out. I needed to learn what made me feel secure without constantly seeking it from others. That year was tough. The initial months were filled with sharp pangs of loneliness, constant temptation, and waves of self-doubt. But then something shifted. Around the halfway mark, she began to experience a new, profound sense of peace. She no longer instinctively reached for her phone to break the silence. She no longer chose her outfits to catch a stranger's eye. She stopped shrinking or overextending herself to fit someone else's mold. She became crystal clear, not just about what she desired in a partner, but about who she was as a partner. This is the kind of clarity that abstinence cultivates. It's not a clarity born from overthinking, but from simply being. In many Eastern traditions, the mind is compared to a lake. When it's stirred up and agitated, you can't see what lies beneath the surface. Only when the waters become still can you gain insight into the depths. Relationships are no different. When you enter them from a place of inner turmoil, everything you perceive is colored by that chaos. You don't see the other person as they truly are. You see what your anxious or hopeful nervous system projects them to be. Clarity gained through abstinence helps you distinguish your projections from reality. You stop looking for a savior. You start looking for someone you can meet authentically, soul to soul, without masks. You don't expect them to complete you. You simply desire someone to walk beside you, whole in their own right. But this clarity isn't just a mental state, it's physiological too. Your nervous system, when perpetually bombarded with stimulation, sexual, emotional, digital, loses its refined sensitivity. Like a taste bud overwhelmed by too much spice, it becomes dull. The emotional body, when overstimulated, gets muddled. It struggles to tell the difference between genuine connection and addictive patterns. Abstinence acts as a reset. It detoxifies your inner senses. It restores your ability to perceive not just with your intellect, but with your entire being. Haven't you noticed how after avoiding sweets for a while, even a simple apple tastes incredibly vibrant? The same principle applies to emotional fasting. When you abstain from the numbing cycle of performative dating, empty compliments, and superficial interactions, even a sincere conversation feels deeply nourishing. A simple, intentional touch feels profound. A moment of shared silence feels sacred, but we must be willing to face that initial discomfort. For many, abstinence throws a spotlight on how much of their emotional life has been architected around avoiding themselves. In that quiet, old anxieties often resurface: fear of not being lovable, of being invisible, of being ultimately alone. These fears don't arise to torment you, they come up to be seen, to be acknowledged, to be healed. If you're always rushing into someone else's embrace to escape these feelings, you'll never discern which wounds are truly yours to tend. A man once described how his lifelong pattern of leaping from one relationship to the next finally broke after a dedicated 6-month period of celibacy and intentional solitude. "I realized," he said, "I'd never once truly asked myself what I valued in a partner beyond mere physical attraction. I was so terrified of being alone that I mistook intense chemistry for deep compatibility, lust for love, her simple presence for my own self-worth." When he eventually re-entered the dating world, he moved with intention. He asked more meaningful questions. He listened not just to words, but to the underlying energy. And most importantly, he listened to himself. Abstinence hadn't just given him more self-control, it had gifted him discernment. And discernment is the cornerstone of wisdom in love. Without it, we're driven by fleeting impulses, idealized fantasies, and deep-seated fears. With it, we make choices that honor both ourselves and others. Now think about this: the kind of partner you attract often mirrors the energy you're putting out. If your energy is scattered, unclear, and needy, you tend to draw in people who resonate with or even prey on that instability. But when your energy is calm, centered, and self-sourced, you start attracting individuals who are similarly grounded. Abstinence is a powerful training ground for cultivating that kind of energy. It teaches you to generate love and validation from within, so that love and validation from outside become a wonderful addition, not a desperate necessity. In Chinese medicine, there's the concept of a jing, our foundational life essence. This essence can be depleted by constant excess, by indulgence, by scattering our vitality in too many directions. But it's replenished through stillness, mindful breathing, sexual moderation, and dedicated inner work. A person whose jing is abundant is naturally compelling. They don't chase, they attract, not through manipulation, but through sheer substance. In relationships, this translates into an undeniable presence. People sense it. They might not be able to articulate why they feel so safe, so drawn to you, but they do. And often, it's because you are no longer leaking your precious energy. You are whole. The next phase in this unfolding path of abstinence and self-awareness is intimately tied to relational integrity, the cultivation of sacred intention. This is about being conscious not only of what you are choosing in a connection, but why. So many people stumble into relationships propelled by hormones, loneliness, or societal expectations. They form attachments without truly grasping the deeper energetic impact of their choices. But sacred intention changes all of that. It infuses consciousness into connection. Every act of intimacy then becomes a deliberate choice, not just to feel pleasure, but to exchange energy thoughtfully, not just to be seen, but to truly see the other, not just to take, but to offer from a place of fullness. This level of intention truly comes alive through the practice of abstinence, because when you abstain, you observe, you reflect, you start asking the questions that get lost in the usual rush of desire. Is this attraction rooted in my authentic self, or is it an old trauma pattern playing out? Am I drawn to this person because they reflect my highest values, or because they temporarily soothe an old wound? Sacred intention is about conscious direction. It's about asking, where is this connection leading us, both as individuals and as a pair? It's not about demanding control or certainty, but about clarity of purpose and movement. If a connection brings both people closer to their own inner truth and growth, it has a sacred quality. If it leads to self-betrayal or diminishing oneself, it's a clear warning sign. There's a beautiful line often attributed to Rumi: try not to resist the changes that come your way. Instead, let life live through you. Sacred intention doesn't fight change, but it also doesn't abandon discernment. It understands that not all intense chemistry is a green light to pursue. Some energies are there to teach you something valuable, and then they are meant to pass. A woman once met a man at a yoga retreat. The connection was instant, easy conversations, lingering eye contact, shared laughter that felt effortless. But something within her had shifted. After years of dedicated healing, practicing periods of celibacy, and strengthening her emotional boundaries, she had become highly attuned to energetic subtleties. So, instead of diving headfirst into a relationship, she paused. She observed. And over time, she noticed that while their talks were engaging, his actions were often inconsistent. He would sometimes withdraw emotionally, sidestep deeper inquiries, and remain vague about his ultimate intentions. In her past, she might have ignored these inconsistencies, hoping the strong chemistry would magically resolve the confusion. But now, guided by sacred intention, she chose to step back. She acknowledged the attraction, yes, but she honored her own well-being more. And in doing so, she stayed true not just to her desires, but to her integrity. This is the profound gift of abstinence. It owns your inner compass. It teaches you not to trade your deep peace for fleeting pleasure. It reinforces that the quality of your relationship with yourself sets the gold standard for every other connection in your life. To cultivate sacred intention also means becoming deeply mindful of the rituals you bring into your connections. How do you touch? How do you truly listen? How do you show up not just on the easy days, but when things get tough? Intimacy in its most evolved form is a spiritual practice. It's not something you just fall into, it's something you consciously walk into with devotion. And real devotion always requires discipline. There's an old Zen teaching about a monk who was asked how he approached every encounter. He replied, "I enter each moment with three things: attention, to truly see the other; respect, to honor their humanity; and emptiness, to not let my past judgments cloud this present meeting." Imagine what our relationships would look like if we approached them with such presence and intention. Abstinence prepares us for exactly this. It clears away the energetic residue of past loves, past hurts, past versions of ourselves. It creates space, and into that cleared space, sacred intention can flow like a clear, gentle, yet powerful stream. The soul doesn't operate on a rushed timeline. It waits until the inner waters are still, and then it speaks. And when it speaks, it doesn't shout commands. It offers profound clarity. This clarity is what elevates abstinence from a feeling of deprivation to an act of devotion. It's no longer about what you're avoiding, but about what you are mindfully preparing yourself to receive and to give. To walk this path isn't to become cold or unfeeling. It's to become deeply warm, yet wisely discerning. Not closed off, but thoughtfully selective. Not hardened, but beautifully refined. In this way, abstinence becomes a profound act of love, not just for potential others, but most importantly for yourself. It becomes a sacred vow: I will not settle for less than what truly nourishes my soul. I will not abandon myself to fit into spaces that diminish me. I will not dilute my energy or my truth. And from this grounded, self-honoring place, real love has a chance to grow, not the kind that flares brightly and burns out, but the kind that roots itself deeply into the soil of your being and blooms, season after season, with enduring strength, genuine softness, and profound soul. When the body becomes truly silent, the soul speaks not with clamor, but with a deep, resonant knowing. This entire journey through abstinence, you see, was never really about denial at all. It has always been about remembrance. Remembering who you truly are when the world isn't looking. Remembering what you genuinely value when all the distractions fade away. Remembering that your deepest human needs are not met through endless external stimulation, but through inner stillness, profound clarity, and authentic presence. In the sacred quiet of abstinence, you begin to hear the truths that the constant noise of the world tries to drown out, that you are not empty when you are alone. You are, in fact, inherently whole. That love is not something to be desperately chased, it is something to align with from within. That true intimacy isn't measured by the proximity of physical bodies, but by the honest resonance of souls. You have learned, or are learning, that every conscious moment of abstinence, whether sexual, emotional, or even digital, is not a loss, but a profound return. A return to self-discipline, a return to sacred clear intention, a return to the innate wisdom of your own nervous system, no longer constantly hijacked by urgency, but beautifully tuned to a baseline of peace. You now understand that relationships don't just magically begin when two people meet. They begin long before, in how you consciously prepare for that meeting. They begin in the inner spaces you meticulously clear, the old wounds you courageously tend, the vibrant energy you mindfully cultivate within yourself. Abstinence, when chosen consciously, is how we make that sacred space for something deeper, something truly real to enter our lives. As wise teachers often remind us, self-mastery is never about harsh suppression. It is about finding a dynamic balance. And that balance is born from a deep, moment-to-moment awareness of your body, your breath, your emotions, and the quiet whispers of your soul. In choosing abstinence, you are not becoming less of anything. You are, in fact, becoming more whole, more grounded, more radiantly alive in your own authentic presence. So, when you choose that silence, choose it not from a place of fear or lack, but from a profound respect for your unique journey, for your precious energy, and for the extraordinary quality of love you are truly willing to receive and to give. Let that silence shape your discernment. Let it clarify your deepest intentions. Let it prepare you not to escape from the world, but to engage with it fully, with the quiet strength of someone who no longer needs anything from it to feel absolutely, unequivocally complete. This is the ultimate truth behind abstinence. It is not the denial of desire, it is the elevation of it. It is desire refined, desire embodied, desire made sacred. And from that sacred, fertile space, true, lasting connection is inevitably born.